Word.
Very good. As far as your action goes, earlier you were saying this is not gonna let me. About taking action.
Yes. Well, I've made phone calls and reaching out to certain people, and they're one of the ideas that I had, the person is receptive. So now it's just to follow up with if they're serious and actually doing what I'm suggesting.
Very good. How about your value? Where are you at with your value?
My personal value?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, much stronger. Um, very clear in the disconnections that I had to do, cutting cords and all that. So more freedom, more understanding, more love. So yes.
Very good. Anyone else? So should be back online. Anyone else like to share where they're at? Questions? We should have all of our platforms going. And everyone value on our Tuesdays. Let's work on concentration. We'll continue on. Do not underestimate the power of the magic key, because it did not come to you clothed in mysticism, or because it is described in language which all who will may understand. All great truths are simple and in final analysis and easily understood. They are not great truths. Use this magic key with intelligence and only for the attainment of worthy ends, and it will bring you enduring happiness and success. Forget the mistakes you have made and the failures, I like to call them follies, you have experienced. Quit living in the past. For do you know that your yesterdays never return? Start all over again. If your previous efforts have not turned out well, and make the next 5-10 years tell a story of success that will satisfy your most lofty ambitions. Make a name for yourself and render the world a great service, great contribution. Through enthusiasm, desire, and concentrated effort, you can do it if you believe you can. The presence of any idea or thought in your consciousness tends to produce an associated feeling and to urge you to appropriate or corresponding actions. Hold a deeply seated desire in your consciousness through the principle of concentration. And if you do it with full faith in its realization, your act attracts to your aid powers which the entire scientific world has failed to understand or explain with a reasonable hypothesis. When you become familiar with the powers of concentration, you will then understand the reason for choosing a definite chief aim as a first step in attainment of enduring success. Concentrate your mind upon the attainment of the object of a deeply seated desire, and very soon you will become a wealthy, attractive force. Through the aid of forces which no man can explain, the necessary material counterparts of that desire, a statement of fact which paves the way for the description of a principle which constitutes the most important part of this lesson, if not, in fact, the most important part of the entire course. When two or more people align themselves in a spirit of perfect harmony for the purpose of attaining a definite chief aim, if that alliance is faithfully observed by all whom it is composed, the alliance brings to each of those of whom it is composed power that is superhuman and seemingly irresistible in nature. Back of the foregoing statement is a law, the nature of which science has not yet determined. And it is this law that I have had in mind in connection with my repeated statements concerning the power of organized effort, which you will notice throughout this course. In chemistry, we learn that two or more elements may be so compounded that the result is something entirely different in nature for many of the individual elements. For example, ordinary water, known in the chemistry under the formula of H2O, is a compound consisting of two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. But water is neither hydrogen nor oxygen. This marrying of elements creates an entirely different substance from that of ether, of its component parts. The same through which this transformation of physical elements takes place may be responsible for the seemingly superhuman powers resulting from the alliance of two or more people in a perfect state of harmony and understanding for the attainment of a given end. The world and all matter of which the other planets consist is made up of electrons, an electron being the smallest known analyzed unit of matter, and resembling in nature what we call electricity, or a form of energy. On the other hand, thought, and that which we call the mind, is also a form of energy. In fact, it is the highest form of energy known. Thought, in other words, is an organized energy. Thought, in other words, is an organized energy. Thought is exactly the same sort of energy that which we generate with an electric dynamo, although of a much more highly organized form. So when we look at the industry we live in, the industry in the past, everything came from a thought wave. That thought wave originated from the consciousness of a human being, as far as everyone knows it or has been told about it. But we are the ones that we know today that are capable of thinking, reasoning, going beyond, tapping into this infinite field, bringing in ideas, organizing them to definite ends. Where are you at on your practice? Where are you at on your practice of mediumship? That's what you're doing. Where are you at with your practice on mediumship, tapping into this field of consciousness, organizing it to definite ends? Thoughts, takeaways?
Abraham, please, where you was reading right now, sir, please. Which book you was reading right now?
I'm reading in The Law of Success. Concentration.
Okay, thank you.
Abraham, a question. In this context, is concentration synonym with focalization? Or are they different?
Well, you know as well as I know, everything connects together.
I'm not asking that, buddy. I'm talking about distinctions.
Mm-hmm.
Is concentration synonym within this context as focalization, or are they indistinguishable? They're synonyms. Do you know? Are you aware of that?
Let's look at what happens to water when it boils. How many degrees does it take water to boil?
Your point?
How many degrees does it take for water to boil?
That depends on the scale you want to use. You use centigrades at 100.
Yeah. Let's say we'll just go with 212 degrees. Water, it's still evaporating. But if you really wanted to tune up fast, you put some heat under it. If you really want your desire to move faster, you put some heat under it. The average individual will not take action until they're being forced to change. Something's affecting their standard of living. And that moves their energy to the root immediately. If your standard of living is being affected, or you move into a place, you go to a place that's foreign, and the very first thing you're gonna think of is shelter, food, water, heat. Survival instinct moves in. Why? The heat got turned on. Because your eyes now see that you're in a foreign place and you have no clue of what to do next. So immediately your root kicks on and you start to get that sentient consciousness, that awareness, survival awareness, and you start to tap into that field from that directive. And you start receiving ideas. So let's look at concentration effectively moving you into a different state of thought form and accelerating your connection with this infinite field. And that infinite field is mist. The energy, the information is in the mist. So as you tune in, you're going to start tuning into other ideas according to the engagement, the way you're engaging into the field. From what angle are you moving into the field? Are you moving from a need, a necessity to survive? You moving in because you need to fight or flight? You moving in because you need to take action? Are you moving in normally now because we're not focusing on service, or maybe you haven't been focusing on service and you need to start acting in a certain way to attract more service, generate more revenue, give service, and then generate money. That's the result. So the exchange of energy is moving from a heavier state to a lighter state. And is always moving into an etheric state. Does anybody have any questions on that? That's why they call it mysticism, moving into the mist. Mysticism, moving into the mist, cooperation. Scientists know that field of consciousness is alive with memory, and you're literally tapping into it according to your desires or your need. A desire, you're going up into the field because I want something, or you're going in the field because I need something.
Okay, I've listened to your answer, and I notice now by contrast with what's behind my question is that your answer, as is natural for dextrogenic, a right brain person like yourself, you take me to a dispersion trajectory, a dispersion journey. You disperse your logic all over the place. I wasn't asking about that, but yeah, I can get what you're saying.
No, it quickly identifies the process for everyone else that wants to understand the process. To disperse an angle without articulating the movement and where it's moving to and what it's connecting to is almost illogical, unless we're just going from a standpoint of a chemical directive, right? So the better we can communicate it, the better we can understand it.
I'm trying here to satisfy the logic of my own way of existence, no, which I'm levogenic, left brain. And then by contrasting with the way you answer it, the way you have to use logic, that's the way you have to use it. You're right brain when you talk, and I'm left brain when I talk. Now, but listen to the contrast between your way of expressing the way I'm looking for an expression, and now I understand that there is a difference between concentration and focalization. And what is the best way to express the difference is that if you want to put together, for example, hydrochloric acid, from just being very, very much diluted, right? And then you want to dilute it less and less and less, you're increasing its concentration. You're not increasing its focalization, you're increasing its concentration. Whereas focalization is completely different. We can apply it. We can apply focalization to situations where the concentration is happening. We can use it semantically. We can do that. But if you want to I want to understand the feature of focalization that makes it different from concentration. Focalization is working there where attention is working.
So
when
focalization is going to be, again, intention.
Yeah. Focalization implies automatically the interaction between intention and attention. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. With concentration, not necessarily, unless a person is intervening. If a person intervenes to change the concentration of hydrochloric acid, then we can put in the concept of attention and intention behind the person who was intervening, right? So that's where you can use the word focalization, and that we can mix one with the other, no? But I'm looking at understanding the nature of the concept itself behind the feature itself behind the mechanisms itself behind the word concentration versus behind the word focalization. I need that in order to understand, to understand ourselves, human beings.
Yeah, that's one step in the many, many steps that I talked about.
Yeah, but that's one I needed. Okay, thanks. I got it. I just got it.
Yeah, it's without any focused effort, you have nothing. So normally desire, and I started off with that, desire is the propelling motion that moves somebody into focalization, concentration, penetration. Does everybody get a understanding of what we're talking about?
Yes.
You see, the reason why I ask these questions, which may seem, that's so obvious, it is not. Because we're wanting to understand by using words, which we don't have telepathy yet. Someday we will, but while we're not there, we got to use words. Whether we talk about them or whether and you hear them and understand them, or whether we write about them. And you read them and you also understand them. That's when you write and read, you're automatically engaging your brain. The brain is the one responsible for being able to do that and for words to exist. Ultimately, Yeah, but anyways, going back to what I wanted to say, you see, if you talk about focalization as different from concentration, now I understand that there's a difference because they apply to different types of circumstances and situation and materials as well. The deepest part of us, where we actually are born, we are bred, we are spawned inside the mind, there's a deeper region there that is in contact with consciousness itself. And our connection to that consciousness comes through a focus that arises when you connect the observer inside of you, that which makes you unique underneath the observer. That uniqueness connects to consciousness. And the concept that connects both is focus. You get focus, therefore you get direction from consciousness through mechanism that now I've been able to understand a little bit. So
But
that's where it's coming from.
Behind it, you couldn't have focus without desire. Desire moves you into a focus. So before the focus is a force. It's that vital life force, intrigued, intanting, wanting to entangle, the wanting, the spawning, desire to come close with that with that of what it wants on the other side. It's magnetism.
Okay, let me stop you there. Okay, so now again, the word desire is different from wanting. Desear y querer. There's a difference, an enormous difference. That at the beginning, in the shallow end of life, you just use the words and you don't care if there's a difference or not, as long as you express to that particular object of your desire or the particular object of your wanting. But if you look at the structure of the damn thing, there's a gigantic difference between the two of them.
They're square worlds apart. That's the illustration from whenever I gave earlier when we were talking to Carla. There's a difference between wanting, desire, and action.
Yeah.
The want is something we just think about. Desire is something you fall in love with.
Okay. Again, as is usual, you are generating declarations that are all encompassing. I want to go underneath it. I need to break it down. I need to. That's just my nature, no?
Yeah.
So from my point of view of my work, the difference, I mean, not to contradict, nor to deny what you say. I think it's absolutely correct what you're saying. But I want to add, what does it look like when you look at it from the inside of it? The inside, the actual mechanisms that make it work as the way you just express it. And then what I find is, and this I learned from you a long, long time ago, because I had never heard the word desire be used the way you use it. For me, the way all my life I was raised around the concept of desire and all the things I did around with people, is that desire had to do with either lust or greed. Lust or greed. That's what desire was all about in my book. But
Let's stop there. Let's go to the inside of that. Why?
yeah.
Why?
That's the way I was taught. I didn't bring it up myself.
No. So let's talk about that, because it's a very important thing. Let's go into the inside of that to see what's
Okay. Okay, great. So why is that? Well, that's interesting. For me, right now that you asked that question, the only way I can answer it is by bringing up the way you understand it, because I had never heard it that way before, ever. It was the first time, and it was very enlightening for me, because then I said to myself, "Oh hell, the desire is not lust, and it's nature, and it's raw nature. No, desire is not lust, desire is not greed." But we know it as such. Now, why do we know it as such? Let's go into what really is the very nature of desire. What really is it? And how is it different from wanting, from want?
So we know desire as such. It was expressed through the people you're around. As such, individuals that use the expression.
Yeah. That's where I got it from.
It's the matrix. So
that's where I got it from. Like all of us, no. It wasn't used way before we lived, no. No. Where I want to go with this is this. Look, desire is a directional force. Okay, it's like a force. Yeah, it's a directional force.
Very good.
That tells us. It's telling us something. It's telling us that you can be more than what you think you are.
I think that is a conceptualization for the masses. Desire is to make you aware that you're one with the infinite. You just became aware that you're part of everything. The more conscious you become, desire is awakened imagination, having fun. It knows that it's not that over there. When we still think that we're separate from infinite, from consciousness, then it turns to lust, greed, envy, jealousy, hate, this ignorance. He doesn't know that he's part of everything, so he separates himself. Consciousness. When consciousness does not know that it's part of everything, and it separates itself from itself, thinking it's separate, and it moves into hate, anger, envy, jealousy, procrastination. All those things are separation of its own consciousness with the unified field of consciousness, and it thinks it's that. So the opposite of what love is the disconnection from its own awareness of its fullness of life. Everyone follow me? Give me 1 second. Was everyone able to capture that?
I'll wait till you come back, man.
Everything that separates us is when we identify ourselves separate from the ever-presentness of consciousness. And that's ignorance. When we can clearly grasp the fact that we're not separate from source, then desire is love. And then that love turns into contribution, to service, to willingness to give, willingness to understand. And when I say give, not the kind of give that people think of on the opposite end, that are in seclusion of things. Giving is finding a way that you're going to contribute to the world, and then educating people that are in lack of how to serve and how to contribute and be in that same wavelength. Our little puppy here is intrigued with chewing up his. One second.
So you know, guys, that you're listening, guys and girls, notice that if we had not stopped to look at the mechanics behind, not the word is just a symbol of something that is underlying it. We're talking about the underlying thing, not the symbol. But one leads to the other. Okay. If we had not stopped to look at the mechanics underlying this word, these things could not be seen as clearly as they can be seen right now. And we need that clarity in everything that we do. We need it. We need it. We drink from it to make better decisions. We drink from it to push ourselves into actions.
And look at the way he's using the words. We drink from it. Very well said. We're sipping from the consciousness of higher consciousness, somebody else's consciousness, somebody else's meanings. We're literally sipping on consciousness. And we try to extricate it. We try to come out of it and then make sense of it.
Look right now. The point, I don't know if we are all sharing here the same depth, okay? But I will see if I can extend the depth to all of you, okay? That Abraham and I are talking at this moment. And look, it's happening right now in front of you, in front of your eyes, man, and your ears. The depth where we've already gone with words. Look at this. In my work, the IC's model, I distinguish between three things regarding consciousness. Consciousness, the C. It only originates, it only belongs, it only exists inside the quantum vacuum state of space. Okay, now I'm using that word knowing exactly what the hell I'm talking about, okay? But this consciousness is C. It's there, right there, okay?
Some of the words was field, universal field of intelligence is what he's,
okay.
The words what he's discussing.
But then, that consciousness, the C, like seas, no, like a sea, you watch it, see, you're seeing a sea. You see how on top of the sea, there's waves moving, right? All the time, waves moving. Okay, so there's now wave, consciousness, the wave. So a wave gets separated from the sea. You see what I'm saying? Consciousness, the sea, it's all there. Absolutely unmanifest. Absolutely. But then it starts moving within itself, generating waves of itself. It's the same sea, it's the same consciousness, the sea, generating waves of itself. So now we can talk about the word, now we can focalize the word as consciousness, the wave. See what I'm saying? So consciousness is there, untouched, but it emitted because it starts moving, generating, of course, waves, right? Consciousness, the wave, then gets expelled from where the sea is. Literally, it gets expelled. And that's the consciousness we're dealing with, and us human beings. Consciousness, the wave. So, but the wave keeps on a connection to consciousness, the sea. Of course it does. But now I'm not going to talk about the connection between consciousness, the wave, and consciousness, the sea. Just talk about consciousness, the wave, period. That's it. Nothing else. Now look at this. This consciousness, the wave, is consciousness, okay? And it's each of these, there's a third level of consciousness that we can talk about. I will talk about it right now, okay? So you got consciousness, the sea, which is features. Look at that, with its own features. Then consciousness is the wave with its own features. That is the one we interact with. And then you have the mind. And what happens in the mind, inside the mind, with which consciousness, the wave interacts, consciousness, the wave interacts directly with what happens inside the mind. As a matter of fact, it activates the mind to generate what it knows how to generate inside the mind. And inside the mind is generated an observer. That is you. Among 17 other instances of you, one of them is the observer in you. Now watch this. And the observer comes into existence because consciousness, the wave, generated drops of itself inside the mind. And those drops of itself organize themselves as an observer.
Right in there. So right in there is the distinguishing factor of differentiated consciousness.
That's exactly it. That's exactly enough. Please listen, because this is very easily, se te puede escapar, okay? I don't want that to happen. No quiero que se te escape. I don't want it
What was the
to
word yesterday? Subtle?
sutileza,
Sutileza?
sutileza. Yeah, sutil is the adjective, sutileza is the noun, sutileza. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Please listen, okay? Please. When you go from consciousness to see, and then you see that the sea is generating itself. And what we talk about when we speak about the sea generating itself, just moving around among itself, it's generating its own waves. It's waves of itself. But there comes a moment, an instant, in which that wave becomes separated from the sea. So there's the first separation there. There's the first differentiation, which implies a separation of it from itself. But the word that comes into expression is now, okay, we're no longer talking about it, we're talking about one of its waves. That is consciousness as well. And it has its own definition, different from the definition of consciousness to see. Now, that consciousness, the wave, is the one that interacts with the mind. And that interaction generates drops and droplets from the wave. And those drops and droplets happen inside the mind. And one of the byproducts of those drops dropping inside the mind, which is, again, a second separation. You see, consciousness, the wave, now has separated itself into drops. And those drops are dropped inside the mind. And then there is where the miracle happens. An observer is born, capable of being conscious. You see?
Let's go right there. An observer is being spawned from it.
Yeah, from the drops. Now,
And
using metaphor.
It's a continuum.
Yes, of course.
Right now, you guys are in the process, even though you may have some of you may be lost, but right now you're spawning more consciousness. As you hear more connections, you're being spawned into different degrees, or you're becoming more aware of things.
You see, so there. So now let's look inside what happened in the mind. So like I said, this consciousness, the wave, it's made of water, using the metaphor, because why? It comes from the consciousness, the sea, which is made of water. Of course, you're just talking about the metaphor, okay? So the first differentiation leads to the first separation. So consciousness, the sea, separated itself into consciousness, a wave. And then consciousness, the wave, interacts with the mind, does things to the mind, activates things inside the mind, and consciousness, the wave, separates itself into drops. And the drops are the ones you, the observer, you, the uniqueness in you, you are made out of those little drops. But those drops, but those drops are second generation of separation, a second generation of differentiation. But now you're there. And what do you look like? You are an observer, then you are called such. Why? Because you have a feature. What is the feature? The mind allowed you to exist, being conscious, not only the capacity to be conscious that you're conscious, but you can also be conscious of your own existence as such. You see, that's a second generation of separation. That happens inside your mind and nowhere else. But now, talking about that, let's just focus on that, not concentrate, focus just on that. Look at it, nothing else but that. So we can learn the hell out of it. So now if you look at the observer, that is the little drop that later allowed the space that spawns the observer for the observer to be conscious of itself, conscious of something else that is not itself, and conscious of its own existence. Do not forget, please, all my neuroscience buddies always mix everything up. Do not forget the capacity of you as an observer to be conscious is not the same thing as consciousness, the wave. Consciousness, the wave was there way before you as an observer were steered into action, where you existed. You see what I'm saying? Now, once you exist as an observer, as consciousness, the drop, you see, that's what you are. This consciousness, the drop, now, look, needs to make a third or fourth separation, a third or fourth differentiation. Look at this. Look how it is being watered down. Okay, now we are in the consciousness of the mind. Okay, and the mind suddenly will look forward and see, oh, what the hell is that? There's a brain. What? To want to interact with the brain. But the brain was there before the mind was there. It was there. It took 3 billion years for the darn thing to exist in this planet. Okay, and when it looks at the brain, it finds very weird stuff, very very weird stuff. Which that weird stuff, this capacity to be conscious, this observer, when it looks at the brain, okay, it will see, hey, but there's some. It speaks my same language, says the observer, because look, it responds to me. It allows me. It allows me, the observer, me, this guy who's conscious. When I use the brain, I can make the brain pay attention. I can direct the attention of the brain to pay attention to where I wanted to pay attention to. Huh, what a weird animal, the brain. Because you see, it did not know for a long millions of years. The observer inside the mind didn't know for millions of years that the brain was there way before he was. And it was there as such, as a human being, hominoid, okay, not Cro-Magnon, but Neo and Homo sapiens, okay, that brain had grew, I don't know how to say it, in this planet out of mere necessity to survive. That's the epitome, the culmination of survival in this planet.
Now think about injecting want, then desiring that.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. So now look at this.
That's where it went from survival to creation.
Yes. So now this observer is capable of co-creating with nature, man.
Then it went beyond, going beyond nature.
Yeah, of course. You see what I'm saying? But in order to do that, you have to live your life in such a way that you're not only surviving your circumstances, what am I going to feed, what am I going to drink, where's my shelter at? You see what I'm saying? How about my children? Are they safe? We have to go beyond that. And that is how you set standards. That is how you set standards.
Now we just made full circle on what we were talking about earlier. See how beautiful this wrapped around? The flower giving its fruit.
Yep.
We just wrapped right back around. So this is where you guys got to go from pure survival, the standard of living.
Yep.
To co-creation. And now we move into want and desire. Go ahead, Ricardo.
Okay, beautiful. So, see, now this is where, beautiful. Thank you. Very good. So now here's where these two concepts fit in beautifully. Wanting, querer, I love it in Spanish, wanting and desiring. Querer y desear. So now we've made it clear that desear is not at its core, it is not greed, it is not lust. No, it is that is a distortion that we've put up on ourselves. But we'll explain that where that comes from. Let's just look at the core with no distortion whatsoever. Okay? And the core with no distortion whatsoever regarding desire and wanting comes exactly from the drops and droplets that were dropped by consciousness, the wave, when it interacts with the mind. So what happens inside the mind are extensions of these drops and droplets that were dropped by consciousness, the wave, inside the mind. And one of those instances of expression of these drops and droplets are, on the one hand, desiring, and on the other hand, wanting. But they are very, very different to each other. Okay? So now, what the hell is desiring in contrast to what the hell is wanting? You see, look at yourself. Look at your own. Remember something you said. Oh, I want that. You see a car, you see a woman, you see a bunch of stuff. You say, oh, I want that. What does it mean when you say that? Not the words, not the words. The mechanics behind the words. The words are too late. They're an expression of what already happened. It may have happened a millionth of a second before, but that's exactly where we exist. We exist in that scale. We really exist inside the mind at the scale of a millionth of a second. We do that, really, literally. So when you say, oh, I want that, it's too late. You were talking in seconds. But the real mechanics happen in millions of a second behind the word. That's what I'm talking about. And you, Angelo, and you, Vicky, and you, Carla. You see, and you, Jake, I'm talking about that guy, that woman inside of you that is way before the word comes into existence. See what I'm saying? That is where the challenge is at. Okay, so let's go back. So what is wanting? When you say, oh, I want that woman, I want that car, what's happening? The observer has looked into the chattering mind and has compared to what's outside, and it says, "Ooh, I have no relationship to that car. Oops, I have no relationship to that woman. I want her ass. I have no relationship with that. So what do? I want it." All wanting comes from you becoming aware and becoming conscious that what you have, what you want to have, what you have, you don't have it.
Let's stop right there because we're at our time for.
Okay.
We're getting really, really close. Maybe we could do a couple more minutes. But I want if you could take notes on this so we can continue tomorrow, Ricardo.
Yeah, sure. I'm doing it.
We're going from, and this is consciousness itself becoming more self-aware, going from survival to wanting, to desiring, to knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Those are levels of going from mind, wave, and the sea of knowledge, or of consciousness that you're one with the infinite. So when you go from a step beyond desire to knowing that I am one with this infinite, that I'm the one that's choosing. That's self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
When you begin to know, knowingness is knowing that I'm one with the infinite. You've gone beyond survival, from want, from desire, to an understanding that you're cooperating with creation. You always have been. The ignorance was in separating yourself from creation. Knowing that you're one, that you are that creative spirit, that life-giving force. Now this is knowing that I am one with the infinite. Now we're in cooperation. Love. Fulfilling itself. We're love fulfilling ourselves.
Now,
with,
please,
with the memories we're using.
You're losing. You're hearing these words, okay? And you hear the word love. You hear the word cooperation. Please do not go into that space inside of you. When you hear those words, you feel like everything is glamour, everything is glamour. It's the other way around. The demand, the exigency to live, learning how to love, is gigantic.
Feedback. It's equal proportion.
Yes, sir. Okay,
but that's where we get the laws mixed up. Sometimes we love from anger, and that's what comes back.
Yeah.
Sometimes we love from sadness, and that's what comes back.
Yeah. But that's what we have to learn to distinguish. You see what I'm saying? When you get involved with life, you have to make those distinctions. It's very important. Why? Because a distinction makes visible that which was invisible until the moment you made it visible. It's an incredible gift nature has given us, but it's also an incredible challenge. Damn. An incredible challenge for us. You see what I'm saying? Because that thing that is inside of the mind, that thing in us with a feature to call it is capable of being conscious, that observer, okay? The demand for it is that every little nook and cranny in the mind must be filled with its being conscious.
Some form of it.
Oh, some form of it, yeah. Because that's what consciousness, the wave, demands from the mind.
Is demanding some kind of an individuality or an expression of itself to ultimately move from an individual to a unified consciousness.
You see, look, this first differentiation step, consciousness, the wave, it keeps inside of itself the yearning to go back to the sea where it came from. And the same thing happens with the drops that are dropped inside the mind. Each drop of us keeps inside of it the yearning to go back to the consciousness, the wave.
We are at our time. Thank you guys. You guys this is a really good class. You probably need to go back and rewind it several times to get an understanding of where you're at in your process. Somewhere you're in between states of consciousness and using other people's ideas.
Yeah, including our own.
Abraham.
Yes.
Abraham, sir, we are not able to rewind it. I don't know what is happening. We tried to, but like this level of discussion here is deep, and we really to have observed this. We need rewind.
Yeah, right now this class will be put permanently on the page, and it's being recorded also on YouTube. So a really great class. I'm shutting off our external classes now.